Marty, can you hear us? Marty, can you hear us?
Hi, loud and clear.
Hi, okay. Standing by.
Loud and clear.
You're still watching The Big Story. I'm Robbie Alampay. A new bus schedule has left commuters confused and stranded at terminals. This as a new window hour policy from 10 p.m. to 5 a.m. take effect. Shaila Francisco explains.
Senior citizen Conrado was here as early as 8:30 a.m. to go home to Baguio. But he will have to wait for 14 hours to leave Metro Manila as the first bus trip will begin at 10 p.m.
Paghintayin ka dito, senior citizen pa. Ano gagawin namin? Matutuwa kami.
Other commuters are also complaining as some of them waited since 4 in the morning.
Gutom po ma'am eh. Medyo kinakalam na nga si Mura dahil kulang sa budget. Galing po akong Bicol. Abol ako sa kasal ng anak ko bukas, Sambales.
Others decided to hire vans. It will cost them 800 to 1,300 pesos per head compared to the 300 peso fare for buses. Some bus companies in EDSA explained that all trips in Metro Manila terminals will happen between 10 p.m. to 5 a.m. starting today. But a transport group warns this is a risk for commuters and drivers.
Lalong-lalo na doon sa mga mananakay na ibababa natin alanganing oras. Saan sila sasakay ng madaling araw?
However, the LTFRB clarified that no resolution has been made on window hours. They only advise provincial buses to stop at the Integrated Terminal Exchange or common terminals for their final destination. This as they note that some terminals in NCR have not passed health and security inspections.
Hindi namin sinasabi kailanman na alas 10 lang ng gabi hanggang alas 5 ng umaga sila pwedeng bumiyahe. Ayaw lang talaga sumunod ng mga provincial buses sa norte na doon sa ITX sila mag-terminal.
But stopping at these common terminals could mean added costs and more hassle for commuters, especially if they have to transfer between buses with big luggages. Amid the confusion, some buses still continue their trip beyond window hours. Shaila Francisco, VR1 News.
For the big story in sports, Game 6 of the PBA Governors Cup Finals was postponed after a fire broke out at the Araneta Coliseum earlier today. Let's get the latest on this. Marty Bautista is reporting to us live outside the Smart Araneta Coliseum. Marty, how's the situation now?
Robbie, the situation here at Araneta Coliseum is much calmer and smoother after that chaotic afternoon, but yet plenty of questions have yet to be answered as to what really happened. The smoke started to creep into the court at around lunchtime as the PBA held its 3x3 Grand Finals. Right away, players and coaching staff were evacuated from the premises. Fortunately, no damage and injuries were reported. But with the PBA Finals just hours before tip-off, many were unsure whether the game would still push through. That's when PBA Commissioner Willie Marshall arrived at the venue to check the situation. After seeing thick smoke covering the court, Marshall deemed it unplayable. Though it is still under investigation, initial reports from the Bureau of Fire Protection show that the fire sprouted from faulty wiring of an air handling unit inside the Coliseum. According to Marshall, this is the first time a fire has broken out on a PBA game day. Nonetheless, they are glad that no one was hurt and that this happened prior to fans and players entering the arena.
Buti nangyari na wala pang mga tao, na 3x3 pa lang. Kung nari, 18,000 tayo. Di ba? So, swerte pa rin. Sabi ko sa inyo, swerte pa rin. Swerte pa rin talaga tayo na ngayon agad nangyari, hindi yung kagitnaan ng Game 6 natin.
Robbie, as clarified by Commissioner Willie Marshall, the PBA Finals Game 6 has been moved to this Friday at the Mall of Asia Arena, while ticket holders for tonight's game have been advised to stand by for refund details from TicketNet. Robbie?
Okay, maraming salamat. That was Marty Bautista reporting live from the Smart Araneta Coliseum in Quezon City. Birthday lang, walang happy. Altavas Municipal Police arrested Palawan's most wanted suspect on his birthday, and yet the suspect still got his cake and got to eat it too. Altavas Municipal Police arrested Alan Barrientos de Los Angeles on April 19. Kasabay pala ni Gretchen Ho eh. Upon discovering that it was his birthday, the police officer surprised him with a birthday cake. De Los Angeles has a standing warrant of arrest for illegal possession of firearms and frustrated murder, but he is set to be released today after he posted bail. And that wraps up today's big story. Catch us again tomorrow at 8 p.m. on Signal Channels 8 and 250. Please like our Facebook page, One News. For more in-depth analysis, visit our webpage, onenews.ph. Mask on, wash hands, stay safe, Philippines. Sa ngalan po ni Gretchen Ho, I'm Robbie Alampay. We are One News.
Sir, adjust tayo. Sige.
Hi, Mr. Banayo.
Hi.
Hi, good evening po. Robbie here.
Yep.
Yep.
Presidential bet Isko Moreno is crying foul over the so-called bullying from VP Leni Robredo's camp as he campaigns in Bohol.
Kung wala pala kaming bisa, bakit mo pa kinakahoy yung mga tao namin? Ba't mo pa binibili yung mga tao namin? Ba't mo pa binabribe yung mga kandidato? Lahat kinakahoy nila. Tapos lahat inoopera na, mag-ano ka na, give up, mag-withdraw.
Presidential candidate Manny Pacquiao has spoken up about the Easter Sunday press conference.
Wala sa usapan yung manira tayo ng tao doon at magsasabing mag-withdraw ka. At hindi ko rin naman alam na may manifesto na pipirmahan. Ang alam ko lang na magkaroon ng press con para sa pagkakaisa.
The presidential campaign continues to heat up with allegations and calls for other contenders to withdraw, but there are also appeals for restraint as the campaign is now nearing the home stretch. Are the voters also getting close to their final choices? We discuss in this episode of The Chiefs. be joined by our guests and the other chiefs when we return. Welcome to the Chiefs. Ako po si Robbie Alampay. With us online, Ami Pamintuan of the Philippine Star. She's joining us from Manila, and here with us in the studio in Mandaluyong, Ed Lingao of One News. Chiefs, good evening.
Good evening.
Happy midweek.
And we have a number of guests tonight, so diretso na tayo sa una nating guest. Joining us is Lito Banayo, Campaign Manager of Presidential Aspirant Mayor Isko Moreno. Good evening and welcome back, the Chiefs. Sir Lito.
Good evening, Roby. Good evening, Ami. And Ed, good evening.
Sir, so we'll get straight to the point. Obviously, since that Easter Sunday press conference, usap-usapan ang nangyari. And at the center of all of that is your candidate, Mayor Isko Moreno. But around him are a lot of people distancing themselves from Isko Moreno's message, for which he's doubling down. A lot of people saying they were blindsided, including people right beside him, including now his own vice president, Dr. Willie Ong, saying that I do not share his sentiments. And I think today he even mentioned the word values, particularly on the message of calling on anyone to withdraw, and for that matter, attacking Vice President Leni Robredo. On balance, how would you assess that press conference, the message, the tactics, and the tact of Isko Moreno from Sunday to today, as far as his campaign is concerned?
Well, unang-una, Robbie, no? Yung press con na yun, we went there on the invitation of Senator Ping Lacson, who told us that among those who would be there would be Secretary Norberto Gonzales and Manny Pacquiao, Senator Manny Pacquiao. But the press conference was delayed precisely because Senator Manny Pacquiao said he would be coming in from General Santos or somewhere in Mindanao. The manifesto was something that we agreed upon in the presence of both, aside from the three who were present, both Senate President Tito Soto and Dr. Willie Ong. We found nothing objectionable. We didn't even need to revise it at all. No? So yun yung context niya. No? So the press conference rolled out at 11:30. And the call for unity was precisely trying to dispute what has long been peddled, especially in social media and even by certain political analysts and certain other sectors, that the fight is framed. They're trying to frame the election as being an anti-Marcos and anti-Duterte fight instead of being centered on the people, on the issues, particularly the poor and the middle class who are suffering through this crisis that is getting prolonged by the day. So, walang atrasan. Yun ang basic message. Ngayon, during the press conference itself, no, because they were all open to questions, nabanggit ni Senator Ping yung kanyang hindi magandang what shall we say, experiences with the Vice President, no, in the prior to the filing of certificates of candidacy in October, and thereafter he mentioned some other one other incident where a professed supporter of Vice President Leni Robredo, no less than a former mayor of Quezon City at that, no, Mayor Jun Simon, approached him and proposed that he backs off, and then Tito Soto would replace Kiko Pangilinan, no? Whether he was authorized to do so or not, that's not within my pale of competence. Now, that was when Norberto Gonzales, Secretary Gonzales, said that his theory about if number 2 cannot break the ceiling and the gap between number 1 and number 2 is very big, then maybe the more competitive candidate would come from 3, 4, 5, 6 or so, no? And that was where, and he was very specific about this. I'm speaking, he said, I'm speaking for myself and not for the group, not for Senator Lacson or Secretary Gonzales. I'm speaking for myself. If that is the case, then maybe it is the Vice President who is right now, per the surveys, public surveys of Pulse Asia, number 2, no? Then siguro siya yung dapat umatras, no? So that is the context where everything is coming from.
Yeah, just one quick detail about that. It may have come from Secretary Gonzales, but Isko Moreno did pick it up. And
Yes.
even on that, and so it was his. He shared in that sentiment, and particularly on the point of yung pagpapaatras. Secretary Gonzales may have expressed it for himself, but Isko Moreno not only picked it up, he did speak for Ping Lacson. In fact, he said in that infamous soundbite now, he did say, sa totoo lang, kami ni Senator Lacson, gesturing to Senator Lacson, nung debate, gusto na naming anuhin. And basically, the invitation was clearly, gusto na namin sabihin kay Vice President Leni Robredo to back out, in his words, nahiya lang kami kasi babae. That was very, very clear. Isko Moreno picked it up and spoke on behalf of Ping Lacson.
Well, I don't know if there was any conversation between Ping Lacson and Isko Moreno regarding that aspect before that particular
Yes,
debate.
but the only point I'm
I do
making
not
is,
know that.
yeah, the only point I'm making is that Isko Moreno at that moment was not just saying this is my personal opinion. He was sharing it with Norberto Gonzales and then now speaking on behalf of Ping Lacson as well.
No, he was not speaking in behalf of Ping. He was speaking in behalf of Ping Lacson, if indeed they talked about it. No, I do not know that. No, I mean I'm not privy to all the conversations between Senator Lacson and Isko Moreno. Nasabi niya yon, I admit. No, sinabi niya yon. No, but so whatever it is, so what?
Okay, Mr. Bonayo, you're an experienced
Yes, Ami.
political operator, no? Sa tingin nyo, ano yung impact sa standard bearer ninyo of
Well-
that press conference? Kasi he's getting a lot of flack on social media.
Well, he's getting a lot of flack on social media from the echo chambers of those people who, from the very beginning, will never vote for him anyway. Those who are really pink or yellow pink, no? So hindi yun ang market naman namin eh. So it does not bother us in the sense that Isko Moreno is simply saying what he feels and what he thinks. No, he is, what you see is what you get. No fakery, no pretensions, no hypocrisy whatsoever.
So you think negative or in generally, anong assessment mo? Negative ba or positive yung press conference sa standard bearer ninyo?
Sa akin, walang epekto either way. Either way. No? It's, syempre, negative dun sa echo chamber nga ng mga yellow-pink, no? But it's, or maybe even the intellectual elite and the AB class, no? But definitely for the poor, that is how the poor react when they feel that they are being, they're I wouldn't use the word oppression, when they feel that their dignity is being trampled upon.
But apparently, our standard bearer thinks medyo positive, no? Kasi tuloy-tuloy eh. He is actually pursuing, he's doubling down on what he said na be a hero, withdraw. Inuulit niya yun until today.
Yeah, yes, because he feels that way. He's being honest about it. He's being forthright about it. You know, hypocrites, for instance, were making a big issue when in one of the interviews he said that he kept 50 million of excess campaign funds and paid the BIR taxes on it. Now, all of us who've been in this political game for years and years know that almost all the candidates do not really even bother to tell the BIR that they have excess campaign funds, because there is no accountability there. These are private funds. These are not public funds. But my candidate had the courage to be honest and forthright about it and paid taxes on it. And then they dunned him for it, and they excoriated it for him. The social media, I wouldn't call them trolls, the social media supporters of the yellow-pink camp even said that, peddled the absolute lie that he lives in a mansion in Alabang, that he has a Bentley, I don't know, a Ferrari, a Lamborghini, whatever, when these are absolute lies, no? So, syempre masasaktan yung tao kasi puro kasinungalingan ang nangyayari.
Sir, let me go back to the unity talks that appear to be a big part or a big part of the resentments and the issues that are being raised against VP Robredo. For example, nung Sunday nga, parang lumalabas maraming hinanakit dahil dun sa unity talks last year. Apparently, VP Robredo was presenting herself as the candidate for everybody else to rally around. My question is this, although I'm sorry if this sounds naive to you, pero what would be wrong with coming to a discussion or talks with a proposal on the table? Di ba? I mean, doesn't everybody do that? Also, sir, if I may answer, also that was done privately in talks between two or more parties. It was not even done publicly like what is being done in the last 3 days. Where a call is being made publicly for one candidate to withdraw.
The so-called unity talks were not about uniting for her. It was stating that she kept repeating that she did not want to run, that she was not a candidate, that she just wanted to unify the anti-Duterte and the anti-Marcos forces so that there would be a single candidate against the Duterte-Marcos combined. At that time, we didn't even know who was going to run, whether it was Sara Duterte or Marcos Jr. or both, as in this case. No? So, ganun yun, yung context. Kaya nga yung may feeling, may sense of betrayal on the part of both, publicly naman sinabi, o inamin ni Senator Lacson at sinabi rin ni Mayor Isko, no, na they felt deceived, no, by the Vice President.
Because she had said that she was not going to run, and it turned out she ran.
Yes. When I was even present in one of those meetings where she did say she was not running, and that the options were not running at all or running for local or what. Anyway, whether it's a congressman, I don't know, but a local position in Camarines Sur, her home province.
But same question lang po kay Ed. I mean, again, I'm just presuming these are all politicians speaking with fellow politicians. Was anybody really surprised? I mean, let's be honest about it. Even Isko Moreno has quotes saying that wag kayo mag-alala, ako hindi rin ako tatakbo.
Well, yun na nga. Pero yung usapan na privately, na sinasabi sa yung hindi ako tatakbo, magsama na lang kayo, labanan natin yung ano, yun ang problema, no? Because napapaniwala niya ang mga ito na mayroong sincerity doon sa kanyang sinasabi. And she was always trying to frame an equation which we did not accept, no? Or my principal did not accept, which is kailangan anti-Marcos, kailangan anti-Duterte. Yung framing of that, the contest in that manner, no? And in fact, I'd even when I was Mayor Isko and I were in the house of one of the top leaders of the Liberal Party before he went to the Vice President's office in Quezon City. And again, that message was delivered na kailangan ang talagang ayaw ni Vice President Leni is yung the Marcos and the Duterte faction.
Malinaw naman po that on that point, from the very start of the campaign, there really was that divergence. No? The anti-Marcos yung isa, and to your point, in fairness, Isko Moreno was clearly, nobody would call him anti-Marcos or anti-Duterte during the course of this campaign. So I won't necessarily say that framing changed, but about a month or 2 months ago, your campaign did say that it's important for all other candidates not named Marcos to recognize that the common enemy is Marcos. Maybe it wasn't meant ideologically, but certainly strategically, your campaign recognized that. So the question of a lot of people now is, clearly that's the front runner from a very plain strategic standpoint. Clearly, ang layo, clearly Marcos wins if people don't get their act together. Why expend all of this energy now against Vice President Leni Robredo and nobody's talking about Bongbong Marcos?
What we brought out a month or maybe 2 months ago and continued to bring out, and in fact continued to talk about, is a very legitimate issue. The issue of the estate tax that was unpaid, that they willfully did not pay and keep contesting up to the present. That is a legitimate issue. It is not It is not an anti-Marcos or an anti-Junior thing. It is simply stating a fact, which is something was done and it was against the law. And even the Supreme Court said so. That is a legitimate issue. In the same way that months ago, we also railed against his deliberate inability not to attend debates or even to give interviews, no, and just chose the interviewers that he wanted, no, because we're presenting ourselves to the public, then we should face the public and respond to issues in debates and forums, no, and that is we presented very legitimate issues against Ferdinand Marcos, but there was never anything personal against Mr. Marcos.
Well, sir, at any rate, sir, things appear to be escalating in the last 3 days. Sunod-sunod nga sasabi ni Yorme na mag-withdraw na si VP Robredo. I think it was today na lumabas yung bagong katagang BBS. Bilib na bilib sa sarili. Now, let me ask you po this. Does Mayor Isko really expect the Vice President to withdraw at this late stage when she's still number 2? I mean, does he really expect her to back off at this point? Or is there something else that we haven't seen here?
Well, we do not know that. No, we cannot predict how her mind works. No, the point is that he's simply raising a character issue here. No, not a gender issue. I mean, Mayor Isko has never been biased against any kind of gender for that matter. It's a character issue that he raised, no? Na parang hindi mo mapagkakatiwalaan ang salita o ang ginagawa ni Vice President Leni Robredo. And again, that is a very legitimate issue. Character is very legitimate when you're talking of the presidency of this land.
Si Dr. Willie Ong, he distanced himself from the call for the withdrawal of the Vice President. Anong reaction ni Mayor Isko doon sa sinabi ng running mate niya?
Doc Willie speaks his own mind, and we respect him for that. Doc Willie from the very beginning said that he's not even going to criticize anybody, that he's not going to say anything against anybody. But electoral campaigns are not about saying, good things about every single person or good things about every issue. Electoral campaigns are not always positive. No? Electoral campaigns are presenting issues, are presenting facts about the competitor, no? Hindi naman laban na mapabaitan, no? But he is free to express his own opinion. We do not muzzle him. We do not tell him what to say, no? So ganon yung Ami.
Okay. One last question na lang po. So in the meantime, where does this put everybody else relative to the campaign of Bongbong Marcos habang nag-aaway ang mga 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and so on? In the meantime, Bongbong Marcos, as you pointed out, is not taking any debates, is not taking any interviews, and he's going to win this hands down. Again, just to repeat the point, habang naglalaban-laban, Bongbong Marcos is running away with these elections, while all the energy of everybody else is focused on each other. What is the strategy for anybody else not named Marcos?
Masyado naman tayo naniniwala sa surveys na parang yun ang be-all and end-all of this electoral exercise. No? The real survey will be on May 9. People can change their minds. No? People can have been listening to the issues, and we trust the Filipino voter to make up his mind. Be that as it may, should Ferdinand Marcos Jr. win in a clean, honest, orderly, and fair election, obligato kandidato, lahat sila ay gawin magsama-sama para lamang hindi manalo ang isang kandidato. That's the core issue as far as we're concerned. Para bang dahil lang galit tayo kay Marcos or galit tayo sa nangyari noong panahon ng kanyang ama, kailangan lahat tayo magsama-sama against him, no? Instead of explaining the issues to the people, instead of giving solutions to their everyday problems, no, in life, no. Na para bang in-speculate na natin na pag nanalo yung isang tao, impyerno na mangyayari sa Pilipinas. Hindi naman naman siguro tama rin yung ganon, no? Ang ibig kami sabihin natin ang dapat nating solusyon para sa mga problema ng bayan, problema ng tao, at be that. Now that is how we should be positive about all of this.
Okay, your point well taken, and I hope you don't take this as not hearing your point, but it also begs the question that we're also seeing that, but isn't that precisely what Isko Moreno is doing with Vice President Leni Robredo now, where basically his message is that pagka it is becoming personal. It is, as you said, it's about character and so on, and that he sees the potential candidacy and win of one particular candidate as damaging to society for values, for so on. I mean, everything that you said, it's not a positive campaign. You will agree.
Yeah, Robbie, wala naman kasing any conversation whatsoever between Ferdinand Marcos Jr. or even Mayor Inday Sara Duterte with Isko Moreno before or during the campaign. Before the campaign and during the campaign. Wala naman eh. Wala ring any effort on their part, and I can understand that, na sabihin na mangahoy o kumuha ng mga tauhan or mag-withdraw kapag withdrawin si Isko or mangako na mag-unite tayo pero ako hindi ka kandidato. Wala namang ganun at all eh. No? That is why it is not for us, no, to say anything as far as conversations or relationship between Marcos and Sara and Isko Moreno, no? As against what has transpired in private conversations, no, and in relationships between the camp of Vice President Leni Robredo and our principal.
Okay, Mr. Banayo, maraming salamat po.
Salamat, Robbie. Salamat, Ed.
We always appreciate it. That was Lito Banayo, campaign manager for presidential aspirant Mayor Isko Moreno. Please stay with us. The Chiefs will be right back.
Welcome back to the Chiefs here on One News. And now joining us is Ashley Ace Acedillo, the spokesman of presidential aspirant Ping Lacson. Sir, magandang gabi and welcome back to the Chiefs.
Good evening.
Hi, Ed and Ami. Good evening.
Hi, good evening po.
With Robbie, sir.
Sir. Yeah, Robbie. Good evening also.
Yes, sir.
At, good evening sa ating mga televiewers.
Yes, sir. Good to see you again. It's been a while.
Same here, Ed.
Sir, well, yeah, everybody's, for the last 3 days, everybody's been talking about Easter Sunday and they're not talking about Jesus Christ. Of course, your principals already qualified what happened nung Sunday. But let me ask you this. How does Ping's support base, how has it reacted to Sunday's event or Sunday's incident? Anong feedback nila?
Well, hindi sa nangungopia ako kay Lito, but same answer. The flack mostly comes from the supporters of another candidate, specifically the candidate who was the subject of most of the discussion, though unintended, last Sunday.
Sir, i-validate ko lang po yung isang sinabi ni Mr. Banayo. It was Ping Lacson who organized this, or at least he was the one who invited everyone to Manila Pen?
Well, actually, merong mga pocket discussions. Hindi talaga siya ang sole organizer. Merong mga pocket discussions among the candidates until nagka-agreehan. Kumbaga, meron naman silang line to each other. Kumbaga, nagkataon na they all agreed, initially the 5 of them, until eventually just 3 showed up. Hindi naman talaga si Senator Lacson solely ang nag-organize doon.
Yeah, but who ultimately was, I mean, not to be trivial about it, but kasi kahapon tinanong din namin si Mr. Ramel of Action Democratico. And his memory was also somewhat fuzzy. He also said na, well, actually, usap-usap, pero hindi ko na rin matanda kung sino. But he did say, he could categorically say na hindi raw sila ang nagtawag.
Tapos si Norberto Gonzales naman, sabi niya, siya raw nagtawag.
Oo. So,
si Norby naman.
I mean, just to be very clear, your memory, and ultimate, again, not to be trivial, but I think it's a legitimate question, who ultimately paid for that press conference?
Well, definitely not us. Malinaw pa ang memory ko, and I won't be fuzzy with my answers. It's like this, Robbie, Ami, and Ed. Most of the discussions really were with the principals. For someone like me who is both spokesperson and coordinated some portion of the press con, wala naman sa akin lahat ang detalye. So for example, I can state for the record that I did not have any discussions with the camp of Mayor Isko. My discussions were mostly for our party and on the side of Secretary Bert Gonzales. Sila naman, I was relying on them, the team of Secretary Bert, to discuss and coordinate with the team of Senator Manny Pacquiao and Yusek Abdelia. That's as far as I am concerned. Iba pa yung usapan siyempre sa level ng mga principals at iba pa yung usapan sa level ng kanilang mga staff dun sa ibang kampo naman. But like I said, as far as I am concerned, that which I have direct knowledge of, that is the extent of my negotiations or discussions leading up to the event.
O sige, sino na lang ang nag-book ng hotel? Siyempre, yun
Hindi rin kami. Hindi rin kami.
Sino
I
kaya?
can state that for a fact.
Sino kaya? Kasi you don't book it overnight, Siguro.
Yes, I agree, Ami. But the thing is, I cannot speak for that because hindi naman kami mismo ang may gawa niyan. So I cannot answer for anybody other than the ones who really made reservations, no?
Pero was there any particular incident that triggered? Kasi matagal nang naghihimutok din yung mga, we know that
Yes.
matagal na yung sentimentong yan ng kandidato eh.
Meron, Ami. Ang pinanggagalingan yan, during the sidelines of the debates, no? We've had 2 so far, correct?
Yes.
There's a 3rd one coming up pa. So the first 2, I believe, of the COMELEC debates were an opportunity. Again, outside of those discussions that may have happened in the interregnum between these debates, no? And of course, meron namang mga contact yung mga principals sa isa't isa. But I know for a fact that they've had pocket discussions among themselves at the sidelines of the debates.
Okay.
That I know for a fact because I've attended both.
Sige. Then let's get to the content of the press conference. That manifesto, malinaw ba sa usapan yun? Because if I remember right, kanina Senator Manny Pacquiao was saying, among other things, lahat ng nakaganapan hindi necessarily yun ang pagkakaintindi niya mangyayari. And if I remember correctly, di ba? Parang he mentioned something like even the manifesto was a surprise to him.
I can answer on the point na hindi lahat ng napag-usapan yun ang nangyari. Definitely, that is true. I won't dispute that. But as to the statement of Senator Pacquiao that hindi niya alam yung manifesto, ganito na ang tanong ko, ano ba ang briefing sa kanya ng staff niya? Meron siyang advance party nung araw na yon na andon. And that same person, his name escapes me now, that same person kausap mismo ni Senator Lacson at ni Senator Soto. Because syempre, they were wondering where he was already. Because for all intents and purposes, he was actually the one who requested the meeting to be moved from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. Kasi ang request was, mag-meet muna sila bago yung press con. The original schedule was 10 a.m. closed-door meeting among the presidentiables, along with those who brought their katandem. And then after 30 minutes after that meeting, after that closed-door meeting, magpe-press con. So na-move yun from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. Nandun the whole time ang advance party ni Senator Pacquiao. Now, whether or not he truly did not know about the manifesto, but one thing for sure, alam ng advance party niya na may manifesto. Now, if they did not brief him, siguro kaninong pagkukulang yun? Sa staff niya yun. And that doesn't make for good staff work, di ba? Now, as to the statement, klaro naman, and I can attest to what Lito Banayo said, no? As soon as the statement was drafted, wala nang there was nothing objectionable about it. They all agreed that it was a good message to put out, especially in a rare moment of coming together of who would otherwise be contenders against each other, di ba?
Yes, sir.
Kaya lang nagkaroon ng unintended consequences, no? So I'll ask you the same question I asked Lito Banayo. Overall, you think yung impact on your standard bearer nung press conference, was it negative or positive?
I would even say, net positive. Bakit? As events like this, Ami, as controversial as they are, they tend to energize any campaign. And that is true for my candidate as well, Ami.
Pero sir, how does Ping feel about how things have appeared to have escalated in the last 3 days, specifically between Isko and VP Robredo? Like your principal said, wala naman siyang intention to call for a withdrawal then, but nangyari na ngayon. Pero pinursu pa rin ni Isko until today, paulit-ulit siya. And kanina nga, ang bitaw ni Isko, BBS daw yung kampo ni Robredo, bilib na bilib sa sarili. So umabot na sa ganung punto. I'm wondering lang how Ping feels about everything now.
Well, I'm not sure about what his thoughts are yung sa current na tinatakbo, no? Or ng escalation as you would call it, no? But I can definitely say something about how he felt about the press con immediately after it was held. Suffice it to say, he felt it necessary to clarify immediately, you know? Although it was clarified, to be fair to Mayor Isko, he did clarify during the press con pa lamang na he was speaking for himself. However, again, referring to or adverting to that escalation, as you would say, initially during the press con, suffice it to say that Senator Lacson and even his running mate, Senate President Tito Soto, felt the need to clarify kasi they held they fielded questions immediately after the press con, and the first issue that they took up was really the call to withdraw, which they said was personal on the part of Mayor Isko.
Yes, sir.
Well, that's one thing that people are wondering about. Why not make the clarification at the moment? And also, if I may, let me add also, part of the impression that Isko Moreno had was not only to speak on behalf, but actually to speak on behalf of Senator Ping Lacson. That notorious soundbite of him saying, nahiya lang kami kasi babae. He was really specifically referring to Senator Ping Lacson, and he even said, doon pa ngang debate, gusto na naming, essentially, I think the implication was gusto na naming sabihan, gusto na namin i-suggest na siya ang mag-give way. Nahiya lang kami. Even referring to Senator Ping Lacson. That was not Isko Moreno making clear that he's just speaking for himself. He was speaking on behalf of Senator Ping Lacson, who was right beside him. Why not make that clarification in that disclaimer right there and then?
Well, Robbie, I'll make 2 points about that. First of all, and I would defer to Abby, Robbie, and even to Ed on this. You've probably known Ping Lacson more than I have, okay? And you probably know that nobody speaks for Ping Lacson other than Ping Lacson. Unless, of course, you've been designated by him to speak for him, right? Now, wala sigurong, I do not presume to say that either Mayor Isko or anybody else can speak for Ping Lacson. Only Ping Lacson can speak for himself, definitely. And secondly, in the spirit of the collegiality of the occasion, mahirap naman doon pa lamang magbangayan sila. If you did that, then that defeats the very purpose of coming together to deliver a common message. And yun lang. Ang gusto ko sanang ma-highlight, yun kasi ang casualty dito. What was the common message, and the common message that was supposed to be very, very commendable on the part of these candidates who, under the circumstances, it was a rare moment for them to come together. And for it to have been brought somewhere else. And I'm sorry to say this, hindi naman passive dito. Hindi passive parties dito. Ang members of the media who were there. Alam niyo, from the perspective of a bystander na nakikinig ako doon, ang dami naman kasing kargadong questions din doon, di ba? So a panel like the panel that we had last Sunday is either left to respectfully decline to answer, to look dumbfounded with the question, or just to answer it straight. For good measure or bad, Ping Lacson has always been known to be a straight shooter. So he spoke straight. Ang challenge ko nga if there was anything that he said that was untruthful, which had no basis, let us know. Nobody has come forward to say that. In fact, I was asked kanina, do we feel that Senator Ping Lacson needs to apologize? Well, that should be the case if he said something untruthful and if he said something unfounded, because the apology is not just forthcoming for the Vice President, but even to the public. But neither of those happened. He uttered neither an untruthfulness or something which was not with basis,
Okay. That was Attorney Ace Asidillo. Sir, maraming salamat po.
Thank you,
Unfortunately,
Attorney.
that's all the time we have.
To get title, Robbie, I'm not yet a lawyer.
Yes, sir. Okay na ba? Okay na yan, huwag nyo nang bawiin. Ako nagsabi, sabihin nyo.
Sige. Salamat.
Okay, salamat po.
I will claim it.
Okay, salamat po. Mr. Asidillo, spokesperson for presidential aspirant Ping Lacson. Maraming salamat po.
Deep Robbie, Kami, and Ed.
Thanks, sir. Ingat po.
Okay. Kabig tayo naman politics.
From politics to passion, with an F. Passion pala.
Medyo may iba po tayo. Kabig naman tayo. Joining us now to talk about the Philippines as well, still, about our society, and very important sectors of our society. Joining us is fashion designer Len Cabili, who is the founder and creative director of Filipina. Ms. Cabili, welcome to the Chiefs.
Good evening.
Good evening, Ms. Kabili.
Good evening.
Hi, Abby. Hi, Ed. And hi, Robbie. Good evening to everyone. Maayong gabi. Magandang gabi sa lahat.
Ma'am, take us out of this topic. Take us out of politics. Lahat ng tao parang talaga, we know we have a few weeks left before the politics. But talk to us about Filipina, why you're involved here, why you started it, and what message, what narrative is in your products that are and in your movement that is also crucial for people to remember, especially in this time As our previous guests have said that alam naming maraming bangayan, but we all need to come together.
I took up fashion in college and I grew up in Mindanao. So it was, Filipina is really a combination of two passions coming together. It was love of Philippine culture and love for fashion. When I was growing up in Iligan, my parents instilled in me love for Philippine culture at a very young age. I was exposed to the Maranaos coming to my home in their full regalia of, the fuchsias and blues. And also my mom is from Basilan. So summers were spent there and I was exposed to the yakans. And so having that love for culture and love for fashion, I created this brand that I was hoping would really point back to the Philippines. I was well aware of the craftsmanship around the Philippines. And as you said, what the importance is about the brand, I think because the brand really pushes for culture as soft power. I'm a big I'm a big fan, not like a big fan, but I strongly believe in culture as soft power. And really binds us all together is our being Filipino. And what's amazing about culture and looking at culture as our soft power, we're all equal before our culture. We all have some sense of ownership over it. And so it's a great equalizer. And I think as we push for culture as our soft power, it will benefit the whole country. And I think that in a way I found in the brand that I created 13 years ago, that it really showcases the craftsmanship of our Filipino artisans around the Philippines, and how when I started selling abroad first. It was a glimpse of the soft power of our culture in the brand. And so it has what has sustained me all these years in pushing for the brand and working hard with the artisans around the Philippines.
Tell us about the partnership that you have with indigenous people.
It's very personal. I go visit them, and there's always like an open communication with them. It's a real collaboration. That's why there's a plus sign in our brand. It's always tradition and contemporary working together. Whether it's for me personally, it's my faith and myself working together to bring about this brand and moving it forward. There's always two things working together. So in particular, my work with the artisans, I would, one word comes to mind. It's really having a relationship with them. And I think once that's in place, once you visit them and once you have shared a meal and shared conversations and seen where they live, I think you know where the other person is coming from. And so having that conversation really puts it in a different place. I think one becomes more considerate on where they're coming from. And when there are problems, I've seen in the past how we come together and really make things work because there's a relationship going on. And I think that's what I value most working with the artisans in the context of the brand. I think it's really the relationship that I have with the artisans that we work with.
So your main market is overseas?
No, 13 years ago when I started it, Filipinos weren't that interested in things that were made here. And at that point, 13 years ago, it was more of like the foreign brands. And that was a wall that I was being faced with. And I had to find a way around it. And so I found an opportunity to sell abroad and I took it, and it became for me, I think for the first 3 at the very least 3 years of the brand, it was more of like a marketing study or a product testing the product abroad. And for me, that was the best place to do it. And eventually, it caught on here in the Philippines. And right now, I would say that a bigger share of the market that buys our products are actually Filipinos, whether it's here or abroad.
The local fabric, the designs are actually beautiful, but well, not a complaint, but observation is that they can be pretty expensive. And another thing is they crumple easily, most of the local fabrics. So what do you say to that?
I think, when people complain about the fabrics being, easy to prone to creases,
Yes.
that for me is the beauty of the natural fibers in the context of the piña. And I think once you are aware of the process that goes into the making of the piña, that it's one of the rare textiles that has that would have fibers in its natural form. Piña is really like when you're scraping, the fibers jump out, and then you dry it, and then you tie it to have one continuous thread, and then it's woven. And it's the same with abaca. And I think once you're well aware of the process and how unique and special that is, and in a way for me personally, it's a luxury to have that kind of textile, and we should be proud that it's something that we have. And so I find ways to make it work, either putting a full embroidery over it to kind of lessen the crease. But I think the natural characteristics should be celebrated and not be considered as like a hindrance in supporting the textile. In terms of like the cost, when I hear that, I always pose the question. So, how do you encourage artisans to keep on pursuing their craft if they're not paid well? And so when they're paid well, of course, there's a cost to it. When we send items to them, all their investment is really their creativity and their skill. Everything else, the cost is on us. So to be able to put value into the craftsmanship of the Filipinos, I think it's more of like a plus rather than something negative, because it's celebrating the craftsmanship of the Filipinos, and we find ways to give back. If there's more than enough that we have at the end of the year, we do find ways to give back. And so I think in terms of affordability, it's not just in the context of Filipina, but there are other brands, or even there are, when you go to whether it's Lake Cebu or other places, there are reasonably priced pieces. But what I'm trying to do is elevate and, whether it's using good quality materials and whether it's, in the fabric or in the embroidery or the embellishment. I think my goal is to make this an opportunity for artisans to earn extra income or make a living out of it, out of something that they know already. They don't have to learn it. It's something that is existing, and it's for us a celebration of our culture.
Yeah, I have to say, and I literally have to say, because my wife is frantically texting me. My wife is a big fan, but I just wanted to ask, in terms of, first getting the name out abroad and then having the domestic market appreciate it, what's the difference what's the narrative abroad and what's the narrative here among Filipinos that really opens people's eyes and hearts and minds to your products?
As I mentioned, I had to, the opportunity presented itself to sell abroad. And for me, that was a way of that point. The mentality was looking at Western brands, and whoever made it big or whoever was selling, not that I made it big abroad, but whoever was selling abroad already kind of was a validation at that point, that Filipinos became more accepting of it. And I kind of had to work around that, use that, and accept it that that was the situation right now, that back then. So, I took this opportunity because in the end, it was really for the Filipinos. I really wanted to sell to the Filipinos. In fact, when I was selling in the US, I felt there was a guilt inside, that I was feeling. So I ended up collaborating with a local brand because I felt that was a way to introduce it here. So, I think it's very different now because there's an intense interest of Filipinos in our culture and in Filipino crafts. But again, that wasn't the case when I started 13 years ago. There was no social media. There were no, there was no maarte. There was no, there was Habi. I think Habi started a small, what does Habi call their, but I think we started at the same time, but it was a very different context at that point, because it was very hard to push your brand when there was no social media. So for me, it was, luckily for me, it was such a gift, and I knew it was really God ordained, that the market abroad opened up for me. And that's when I started picking up stores there. So it was a very slow growth, but it was something that I greatly appreciated because I was given opportunities that otherwise would have been very hard to pursue.
Well, Len Kabili, we're almost out of time. We do have social media now. Tell our viewers, where do they find Filipina?
We actually have a pop-up right now together with Balay ni Atong and Natalia Lagdameo at the R1 level of the power plant. We're right across Rimowa and Nespresso, in between Aesop and Rolex. So it's so nice to see 3 Filipino brands in the midst of global brands, and it just makes me so proud. And we're just so happy that the reception has been fantastic. And so we're there until May 28 at the power plant of Rockwell.
Okay, maraming salamat, Len Kabili, founder and creative director of Filipina. And please also catch the second episode of Infinite Legacies, hosted by Len Kabili here on One News. That is this Saturday, April 24, 5:30 p.m. April 24, 5:30 p.m. Thank you again, Len.
I think it's on a Sunday. 24 is on a Sunday.
Yeah, Sunday.
Okay.
1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, Sunday.
Okay, thanks for the catch. Thanks for the catch. I'm just reading off the teleprompter. No, but thank you. Okay. In any case, thank you again to Len Kabili of Filipina. And that will be all for this edition of The Chiefs. We hope what was discussed here will keep the conversation going. Before we go, a reminder to our viewers, mask on, wash hands, and stay safe, Philippines. I'm Robbie Alampay.
I'm Ami Paminton of the Philippine Star.
I'm Ed Lingao, and we are One News.